Are you looking for inspiring conversations about faith, film, and life? You're in the right place. Here's the host who knows the right questions to ask, Father Edward Looney.
Hey everybody, it's Father Edward, and this is the month of October, and many Catholics during the month of October continue to pray or renew or rededicate themselves to praying the Rosary. It is the month of the Holy Rosary. Pope Leo XIII, he wrote many encyclicals on the month of the Rosary and just helping us to understand the Rosary all the more. There are lots of people who have promoted the Rosary over the years. You know, we think of especially Father Patrick Peyton, who promoted the family Rosary apostolate. Other people have written devotionals. I myself have written a Rosary devotional, a Rosary litany. You could pray the Rosary using meditations from Fulton Sheen or any number of saints. But what about the littlest among us? What about the young people, the children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, the kids in your RE program? How do we teach them about the Rosary? What books make the Rosary come alive and make it accessible to them? Well, today I am delighted to be speaking with Jane Morrone, who is the author of a children's book called Mysteries of the Holy Rosary. Came out back in 2022, but always relevant, especially during this month, to renew and to teach the Rosary to the people that we care about and love in our life, especially the young children. So thank you so much, Jane, for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Father Ed, for having me. You mentioned quite a few of my favorite people. Father Peyton, I remember watching his show, and what an inspiration to watch the TV show about the mysteries.
Oh, yeah,
And it was, he had one show for each mystery. But back then, we only had 15 mysteries.
sure.
And now we have 20. So, Fulton Sheen, I whenever I write something, I always think of the JMJ that he wrote on the blackboard, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and I find inspiration in that. And what you said about the children, it was my, it was my luck, I should say, or my inspiration of teaching children at religious education that I inspired me then to want to write a book about it. And my partner, my co-author, Heather Lean, had called me one day, and she was raised Jewish, and she's found Jesus as her savior and is a Christian now. And I was telling her about the rosary, and she said to me, "Jane, you love the rosary so much. Would you like to write a book about it?" And it was that call and that inspiration that created Mysteries of the Holy Rosary.
No, that's beautiful. Yeah, for me as a young person, as a young kid, growing up in my little hometown of Oconto, Wisconsin, the parish there, two memories of the Rosary come alive. The first would be just the fact my grandmother always had a rosary by her chair in the home. I lived with my grandmother growing up, so I just saw that the Rosary was always there. And the second thing was we had some individuals in the parish that went on pilgrimage to different apparition sites and they prayed the rosary after mass, and they would try to pray 15 or 20 decades of the rosary. So just participating in that with them as well, like I saw the rosary as a young person, and probably that ignited my own love for Our Lady. So I'm just curious, what about you? What's your rosary story? Have you been a lifelong prayer of the rosary, or what role has it had in your life?
So, as you said, you watched your grandmother. I watched my mother pray the rosary. I remember her sitting on her bed, and she had a crystal rosary, and the Our Father beads were triangular at that time. Again, we only had the three sets of mysteries, and they had the mysteries on those beads. So that's something that I remember. That's how I learned to pray the rosary, and I learned to pray it with the mysteries. So many people pray a rosary, but don't know or don't understand there are mysteries that go with it.
Yeah.
And I have adult friends that have said to me, Jane, until your book, I didn't really know what they were.
Yeah, so if they prayed the rosary, would you say that they would just pray it like 1 hour Father, 10 Hail Marys, glory be, do over again, like, so they
Exactly.
don't necessarily put the mysteries there. I've heard that from people, like they'll, like, someone will tell me, yeah, I don't know the mysteries, but I just pray the 53 Hail Marys or whatever, with the Our Fathers and glory bees interspersed in there. So yeah, no, it's important to know the mysteries of the rosary. When we know the mysteries of the rosary, well, it becomes really a catechetical tool. It becomes a teaching tool. It helps us to tell the story of the life of Jesus. The fact that an angel announces his good news, that Mary visits Elizabeth, like, you just trace the life of Jesus and Mary then through these mysteries. And when I speak to young people, I tell them, well, I think the rosary, and this was now a dated analogy, but I would describe it to them as like Mary's Instagram page, where it's like, she has the images of her son's life. And so you would just pull up her Instagram page and you would look at those mysteries, but Instagram probably isn't as popular with the young people these days as other things, so maybe that analogy limps now a little bit, but yeah, it's the mysteries. It's important to know the mysteries. So there's 20 of them, as you've mentioned. Pope John Paul II, many years ago when he was reigning as Holy Father, declared the year of the Rosary, and then also instituted in his encyclical letter the five mysteries of light, also known as the luminous mysteries of the Rosary. And I know there are some people out there who kind of like poo-poo the five mysteries of light, that maybe they don't even incorporate them into their rosary praying. They kind of ignore them, but there is kind of a historical precedent for that. Just because they weren't in the traditional Dominican three sets of mysteries, there was some priest that promoted pretty much the five mysteries, decades, those events, as a set of mysteries. Um, it's not like the Holy Father just made it up, but it's something that he found, he discovered, and wanted to like share with the universal church. So I guess all of that to say, of the mysteries, do you enjoy the joyful, the sorrowful, the glorious, luminous, and then maybe what is your favorite individual mystery?
So my favorite individual mystery uh, is, I'm going to say, the baptism of Jesus.
Oh,
When John the Baptist, when he shows and he wants us to see him, that he goes through what we go through. He wants us to follow him. He sets his example for us. This is what I want. And John says, you should be baptizing me. You should be taking, and he comes to show us, this is what I want you to do. I am doing it. Follow me. And then I'm going to say there are two. Uh, right now, I'm reading the beautiful Eucharist, and it's the institution of the Eucharist,
sure, sure.
because that now is where he shares his body and blood with us. And it's those two are my most beautiful, are my favorites. Uh, and I mean, I say that, and then I look and the visiting of to Elizabeth when Mary visits her cousin, and so it's almost hard. I say that, and then all the other ones come into my mind
Sure.
because it's they are one gift after the other if we
Yeah.
concentrate on them.
Well, it seems like you are a fan of the mysteries of light, citing two of those mysteries. Um, For me, if I was to answer that question, a lot, listeners of the show will know this, that I wrote my license thesis on the Assumption of Mary. So I have read many, many homilies from many, many different abbots and Greek fathers and church fathers and whatnot. So I've studied the Assumption pretty much at length. So I love that mystery of the Rosary, particularly because of that. I too drawn to the Visitation, partly because I was ordained a deacon on the Feast of the Visitation, and I think it is a marvelous feast and mystery of the Rosary. And one of the insights I came to about the Visitation is that so often, and this is because it's scriptural, right? That we reduce it to the encounter of Mary and Elizabeth and the infant John leaping in the womb. And that's great. We should think about that. But I'm also the first to tell you something I realized by reading the mystical writings of Maria of Agreda and Anne Catherine Emmerich is that, the mystery of the Visitation doesn't end there. Mary remains with Elizabeth for 3 months. So the mystery is that entire time. So you can think about, the different aspects of like the conversations that Elizabeth and Mary would have had, that you can meditate about kind of that hiddenness of that event as well. So it's really rich, but I think sometimes we just reduce it to that one pivotal moment.
There's also something else in that story of Zachariah. Zachariah losing the ability to
Yes.
speak and then being opened up, then that opens up. So it's an so much to that story. I pray to, to Saint Elizabeth for women that want to have children.
Oh yeah.
And so there's so much to that mystery. And you're right, it's not only John leaping in her womb. It's the whole how Mary goes there in haste, how she does help her cousin. So it's of giving of yourself even when you might not be feeling well.
Yeah.
Because Mary, we don't know how Mary felt.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the fact that you just mentioned there, in this mystery, I think of Elizabeth and I pray for women who want to have children, right? So each this is something I've written about, and I wrote about it especially for priests. So it was published in a priestly periodical, but basically how we can look at each one of the rosary mysteries and find something to pray for in that mystery. And I related it to the life and ministry of priests. So, in the Annunciation, to think of maybe your own calling, how God called you to be a priest, or and then, the Visitation, maybe to think about the couples in your parish who are with child and pregnant, the nativity, those who have just given birth. So you can almost extract an intention and attach an intention, whether you're a priest or a layperson, for the luminous mysteries. Well, if you know couples getting married, well, pray for them. For the baptism, well, all those who are being baptized, going to be baptized, or maybe you're praying that one of your children will be baptized, that maybe a son or a daughter has not yet baptized their child. And so you attach that. So I think an intention for each decade is a good and noble thing.
So I will tell you, Bishop O'Hara is one of our bishops in the Archdiocese of New York. When he was Father O'Hara, he had given a homily and it was a morning mass. It wasn't a Sunday mass. It was a morning mass. We were in the little chapel and he told us that sometimes when he prays the rosary, he attaches a face to each bead of the
Oh
rosary.
yeah.
And I think about how beautiful that is. You're praying for 60 people in one rosary. You're just putting a face, and I go along the family. I'll pray for my children and my son and his wife and his children, and I may add his in-laws or I may add my cousin and each person gets that prayer. And then I think about when we speak about being called to be a priest, when I go to schools and I speak about the book, I let the children know they should be open to the call of God in any way, whatever way that call is. I was open to the call from the Blessed Mother to write this book. She called me. It was a phone call, and it was something I didn't even have to think about. And it when you I think about being called, when I was, before I was teaching religious education, I had gotten this feeling, I really should teach religious education, and I'm saying, but I'm a pharmacist, I'm a mom, I'm not an educator, I wasn't a teacher. The day after I had that feeling, literally the day after, I get a phone call from our rectory, the secretary at our rectory, and she says, "Jane, we need a CCD teacher for the 3rd grade. Would
Hmm.
you be willing to teach?" They knew I was active in the parish, and that's why. So I immediately said yes because I was prepared. Granted, it was only 24 hours, but the Blessed Mother prepared me the day before that that call was coming.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think sometimes that does happen with the rosary. Like, it can enhance something, like as we pray, like it can make better something that we're going to be doing, or it could be preparing us to say yes, to do something, that the Lord is going to invite us. So, like, it's almost like Mary is planting that seed already in our mind or in our heart, so that we've already thought about it. So then we can give our fiat as she gave her fiat at the Annunciation. So the rosary that we pray, obviously, adults pray it. They pray it before Mass, they pray it in their devotional life. You visit a shrine. I tell people you should pray a rosary when you visit a shrine, things like that. But what about the family? So, mom and dad, 3 kids out there, let's say, how do they incorporate the rosary into their family life?
It depending on the age of the children, and I one of the reasons I love the book, is that, you open it up and there are illustrations that are engaging. They draw you in. So it starts with a conversation. It starts with, "Let's look at this book." I mean, in this aspect of it, or, you teaching them a Hail Mary and an Our Father, teaching them the simplest prayers. Eric Clayton is a writer, in the Ignatian community, and Eric is a friend of my son and my daughter-in-law. And when I sent Eric a copy of the book, he said it was so nice to sit with my girls and show them this. And
Sure.
it enriches the rosary because it gives the children something to think about, and that's one of the reasons it was so important to me to have, engaging illustrations, because I
Sure.
want the children to be able to learn to meditate on them. We're in a such a fast society. Go, 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 go. Do this, do that. We have to go to gymnastics. We have to go to track. And then we don't spend the time to just sit back and relax and pray. So this book, I encourage, um, children, adults. I mean, I wrote it for children. It's really for the parents and the grandparents.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that a lot from children's authors. Like, yes, I want to tell a story for children, but I want to reach people who maybe need it themselves as well, and in this simplified form, and it's going to enhance their life too, and their devotion and their prayer as well. So, like, do you recommend a family to have like 7 o'clock after dinner? They sit around together in a circle and pray pray 5 decades of the Rosary together. Is that a good recommendation, or do they ease into it? Like,
Of course, any time you can have the family together to pray is a good time. And I mean, I really recommend it at that getting ready for bed stage.
sure.
So when the children, and maybe some of the younger children, you may not be able to have their attention, but if you start with one decade of the rosary, or you start with one mystery of the rosary, and then you build it to two, build it to three, and you encourage them, they may want more. One of the prayers I've attached to the book lately, and this is the first time, so in 2 years, I've never really attached a prayer to it. But I was, I think I was at adoration. I was in church when it came to me. I might have been at mass, and it came to me, Lord, we were praying for vocations, and I said, Lord, can you, somebody that shall read this book, can you encourage them
Hmm.
to choose the vocation, to go into the priesthood, or go to become a sister? And I had never done that before. I never did that before. But it came to me that I should ask for that. And so I asked that in that book, that when somebody, they should be touched. And I'm Italian. One of the things I've always thought about is that when I get to heaven, God's not going to ask me how many meatballs I made. He's going to ask, how many souls did you save?
Hmm.
Who are you bringing? And I believe the Blessed Mother gave me this. She said, "This is a mission." God said to me, You're worried about making money. Don't worry about making money. Worry about how do we get to heaven?" And if we would have that plan, if we would have those thoughts, families would have the thoughts of, I want to take all my children, I want to take their friends, I want to take their families, and we all want to go to heaven together. It changes your mission in life.
Yeah. Well, the rosary, in a sense, almost transports us to heaven, makes us think about heavenly things. So, when the family buys your book, The Mysteries of the Rosary, and they look at the very engaging illustrations and such, like, what can they expect? So there's the image of the Last Supper for the institution of the Holy Eucharist. Is there a little meditation on the page, or
There is
what is it that they're looking at?
there's a simple explanation. So just an example is that for the Annunciation, and it's the Annunciation in a town named Nazareth. The angel Gabriel was sent from God to Mary. He appeared to Mary to ask her to be the mother of Jesus, and she said yes. Simple.
Yeah.
And the illustration holds them and just explains it very simply.
So the family prays that decade of the rosary, they keep it open, the kids keep looking at that picture, and they kind of begin to understand, well, this is what I'm supposed to be thinking about. This angel coming to Mary, and of course, in that mystery, the angel actually says, Hail, full of grace. So we're repeating the angelic salutation of Mary. So, but yeah, it gives them something to look at, something to think about. Yeah, very engaging, I would say, for sure.
And I'll share with you the Assumption.
Oh, there you go. There she is.
And again, very simply, Mary is taken body and soul into heaven to be with her beloved son, Jesus. Now, I will tell you that when I first sent the book to Cardinal Dolan and Monsignor Mathers to receive the imprimatur, he did ask me to make 5 changes so that it would be doctrinally correct. There would be no mistakes in how we explain the mysteries. So we
Hmm.
have received the imprimatur, and when teaching about the life of Jesus and Mary and teaching the mysteries, it's been approved. So there are no discrepancies in what we say and compared to what the Catholic teachings are.
Yeah, no, that's great to be an authentic teacher and text. That's great. So the families that like obviously the book's been out for some time now, 2 years almost. So, uh, what have people said about it as they've used it to pray with children and grandchildren?
So I one of my childhood friends, her granddaughter, she bought the books for her grandchildren, and her granddaughter absolutely loves the book. She brought it into class to show the teacher, and a matter of fact, they gave it as a gift to their teacher.
No.
We have a coloring book, and we also have the book translated into Spanish.
Hmm.
So she has the coloring book, and she she reads it often. She loves the book. My girlfriend tells me every time she comes to the house, we look at it, we read it.
Sure.
She has it. Another friend of mine bought 4 books for her grandchildren. And after she bought the books for her grandchildren, she said, Jane, I decided I wanted one for myself.
Oh, there you go. So for all ages. If you read the whole thing in its entirety, again, like echoing the words of John Paul II, it's like a miniature gospel because it's a summary of what we believe. And I just actually pre-screened the other day. I saw this new Christmas film coming out in November, and from Dallas Jenkins. It's called "The Best Christmas Pageant Ever." And one of my takeaways from that was like one of the premises of the movie is this family that they are experience like these kids. They're experiencing the story of Christmas. They've never heard it before, and here they are, like 10-year-old or 7-year-old. They've never heard the story of Christmas before, and here they are, like hearing the gospel, being told, and they have all these questions about Jesus being born and what that means and all of that, like they just were kind of shocked and awe about that story. And really, as we introduce young people to the Rosary, well, it's kind of what we're doing. This is their first encounter, maybe, by hearing the story of Jesus, a story that they're going to hear over and over and over again. But your book is really communicating, maybe for the very first time to them, all of these miraculous things that happened and surrounded the life of Jesus.
Yes. And I wanted to teach it as the life of Jesus and Mary. I wanted it to be the whole thing because when I taught it, we only taught one set of rosary of mysteries. So I was teaching the joyful mysteries in the 3rd grade. They were learning the glorious mysteries maybe in the 6th grade. And I wanted it to be taught together, not separate, because I felt it took something away from the importance of the rosary, it
Hmm.
being the whole life of Jesus and Mary.
Well, you've put together a wonderful book here to help children learn these mysteries, to begin to pray them, to begin to meditate on them. It's a perfect gift to give around the Christmas season, of course. It's a perfect book to use during the month of the Holy Rosary. So if parents or grandparents want to get their hands on a copy, where can they pick up a copy?
Well, first of all, it's available at the EWTN Religious Catalog, and it is available on Amazon. It is available online at Barnes and Noble, the online shop. But I always encourage people to go through EWTN if they'd love to support a wonderful cause.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's a great resource. Uh, Always to have these holy reminders, as Mother Angelica would say, and yeah, support the good work of broadcasting the gospel to
Yes.
all the parts of the world. So, yeah, so pick up a copy. Well, I'll share a link to the EWTN Religious Catalog link in the show notes today for people to get a copy. And yeah, it's been wonderful talking with you about the Rosary and just gaining more insights myself into the mysteries that you and I know so well. So thanks so much, Jane, for your time today.
Thank you too, Father Ed.
If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. And don't forget to stay up to date with what Father Edward is doing by following him on Facebook, X, or Instagram at the handle @FrEdwardLooney. Thanks for listening, and please join Father Edward again next time for another inspiring conversation.